Hi, everybody. Welcome to my channel. This is the Love Island Australia recap, season 3, episodes 17 to 20. And we just come out of Casa Amor. Our first episode is Casa Amor Decisions. So let's get into it. I had a lot of thoughts about this entire 4-episode week. So first we see a montage of uh, Ryan's actions during Casa Amor. Then we see Nicholas's kind of back and forth on how he's feeling about Courtney, about choosing someone else. He's still so very unsure, which is so confusing to me at this point. And then we see the girls being really unsure, which I kind of understand. And then we see Ben pulls Lexi and reassures her that he's really into her, that he can't wait to go into the villa with her. She's saying, he's saying he has her back. She's saying she's just in a confusing situation. She's not sure what she's going to do. She tells the girl she's trying to decide what kind of bitch to be, the one that's a dumb bitch and trying to get back with Ryan, or the one that's a bad bitch and goes for the guy who she feels probably deserves her more. And Zoe kind of tells her, to go with her heart. Um, and that, she's not crazy, but she has this thing that she does with her body that could tell her what to do. And she like holds her body like this and then closes her eyes and kind of sways back and forth to see like which direction, one direction is yes and one direction is no. And it basically tells Zoe that Lexi should choose Ryan, which is a wrong choice because we all know that he's going to choose Talia. And so it's like, I don't know what that was about, but I thought that was actually very hilarious. But Courtney, on the other hand, is like certain that Nick is like not even an option for her. She's like, he's totally out. And so they're like, are you sure? And she's like, they're like, what happens if he comes back single? And she's like, that's not going to happen. Like, I'm not even thinking about that because that's definitely not an option. And she's like, she's just got to figure out if she's going to come back single or she's going to, choose Noah. Then we see more montages of Mitch missing Tina, Aaron missing Jess, Chris missing Zoe. Nick is still confused, which it just was very confusing to me. We do kind of understand why he was so confused. I get it now, but like this part, I was still not understanding why he was so confused. Lexi whispers to Ryan's pillow that she hates him, which I also thought was hilarious. Mitch and Aaron think Courtney's definitely going to recouple. Zoe maybe will recouple. They have full trust in Jess and Tina, but they're not sure what Lexi will do considering she really liked Ryan. So Lexi's still unsure what to do. She says, this is quote her, there is real potential with Ben. She really likes him, but she's not sure what to do about Ryan. This becomes a very big point as we go for the rest of the episode into the episode 18 as well. Tina doesn't know what to do without Mitch. She feels very insecure, and Courtney is also not sure what to do about Nick. So we see they get also the final date text like the boys, where the two unsure people, Courtney and Lexi, both get texts to go on their respective dates with the guy that they chose. So Courtney goes with Noah, Lexi goes with Ben. Courtney and Noah have a toast. Ben and Lexi, basically Ben is saying he's not ready to leave. He also thinks that there's real potential with them, and Lexi agrees that there's real potential for her and Ben. So Courtney says Nick is like totally out of her head. So we know that she's probably not going to choose Nick. So then we get the text, which is basically threatening, stick or twist, or be dumped, and follow your heart. So Aaron is upset because he doesn't want to lose anyone. Like basically this threat puts him on edge. Taku is not sure if he has anything left in the tank to give to this experience. He could, go home by choice, and he understands that. He just wants to make sure if him and Michaela have some real potential before he makes the choice to go with her. And at this point, I'm like, I really do think that he realizes they do have potential, and that he, would be throwing it away, basically feeling like he can't keep going. He's had an emotional experience, so I understand if he's saying that he's emotionally spent, but I also feel like he knew that he could keep going with Michaela. I think if it was somebody else, I'm not sure that he would make that decision though. So then Nick is like, he's unsure what to do. The decision is to leave on his terms. The decision would be to leave on his terms. Nick, it says he hopes that him and Courtney, if they do each choose somebody else, maybe could find their way back to each other. So at this point, I was like, okay, that makes sense. So you choose somebody, and that way, if she chooses somebody, you can have a discussion with her, and maybe then at that point, she would understand where you're feeling, so that maybe you guys can make your way back to her. I thought that's what he was going to do. So I was like, okay, that actually makes sense. Tina's crying in the shower because she's still insecure. Courtney now is unsure because the girls have really literally pointed out to her, well, what if Nick comes back single? And now the thought process is, well, I think she was like, well, if Nick was single, then I would want to be with him. But then she's so unsure if he's going to be single or not. Mm-hmm. So Chris and Zoe, we see them, separate. They're very unsure because they don't know where they each left off. They both were basically one of the newest couples in Casa, going into Casa Amor. They really hadn't solidified anything with each other. They really hadn't had discussions about where they were at. They just know what their vibes are, and they both, really feel like they liked each other, and that each other was the person for them at this point. Mitch feels very vulnerable, which is new for him because, he's never had a girlfriend. I think is used to doing things on his terms. And so now he has to make a decision where he's basically leaving it up to someone else to decide if they move forward or not. Nick was like, he wants to talk to Courtney. And he, wishes he had that chance. Um, Courtney says Nick is her normal type, but Noah is who she probably should date from now on. And Aaron and Jess just really, really miss each other. Lexi feels like all of a sudden, Lexi says she feels like her and Ben aren't connecting enough. But my thing was with this is I was kind of shocked when she said it. And so I'm unsure if she said it to him. But we know how the show kind of like edits things. So I'm like, did they not put in on purpose that she said this to him? Because this, to me, this statement kind of came out of nowhere for me. So I'm just like, well, did she actually tell Ben that? And then Taco feels like Love Island starts tonight. And then when he said Love Island starts tonight, I said, oh, he's going to choose to stay, because if he felt Love Island starts for him tonight, that means that he's gonna take the journey forward. Because I feel like if he felt he wasn't going to choose Michaela, he felt like Love Island would end tonight, because this would be the moment that his journey would be over. So, and then we see the Casa boys and the Villa girls basically gather around the fire pit, and Sophie enters. And so most of this, I'm not really going to go into a lot of the commentary. Some of the commentary was kind of very silly, but like Sophie asked Courtney about the Casa boys, and she just kind of makes, general statement that they're good boys or whatever. And Lexi about the Villa boys, and she just says that she misses them and she can't wait for them to be back. And then she asks Tina, did she have doubts? And of course, Tina's like, yeah, she has doubts. So they start off with Taku. He goes first. She basically makes this whole spiel about him not finding connection. If he comes in single, he's dumped from the island. The girls start like literally freaking out because she says that if he comes in with nobody, he is ending his journey by choice. Courtney is kind of devastated. She says that she feels like her and Taku have had the same journey in the villa, and that it would be a really big mistake for him to cut his journey short, that he still has a lot left to go, and she doesn't want to lose him. And she starts kind of praying that he comes in with somebody. So then we see next scene, Taku walks in with Michaela. The girls cheer, and he's excited. He says that, he wasn't sure where he would be going with this journey, but he finally decided that, he was going to choose Michaela, and he found himself a dime, as he says. Michaela says she's very excited, but it is early days, but she's glad that they found her connection. Courtney runs to Taku and gives him the biggest hug. And the girls are all very warm to Michaela, which is, actually kind of shocking. I'm surprised. But they were all really nice to her. So then moving forward, we see Jess sticks with Aaron. Aaron walks in alone and then runs to Jess. He's happy and relieved. He says he's kind of shocked that Jess was alone, but he's, just happy that she's alone. Jess is also relieved, and they both explain how much they really missed each other. Zoe sticks with Chris. Chris sticks with Zoe, and they're both really happy about it. And then they go to Lexi. Lexi makes a whole spiel about how devastated she is. She was really devastated by the entire situation. She felt led on. she's decided that she's going to keep her standards high and recouple with Ben. Um, Taku's face the entire time was absolutely hilarious in this scene. Ryan does come in with Talia or Taylor. Sorry, I always say it wrong. Taylor, because it's spelled weird. But yeah, Taylor. Ryan says he's sorry, but he's better. It's better now that he does this than down the road. She says she didn't expect this. It really hurts because she feels totally blindsided. He says that the age difference, they were in different stages. Taylor and he are in the same path of life. And she says that, it's only like 5 years. She doesn't know what he's talking about. But, for anybody who's gone through schooling, 5 years can be like a big difference in life. Life goals, life places. That's like sophomore in college dating sophomore in high school. You're in two different places in life. Or even a first year grad student dating a freshman or a sophomore in college. You're literally on two different paths. You're in two different places in life. It can be very tricky if you guys are not like wanting the same things. He could be wanting to get married sooner. He could be wanting to have children sooner. Is she ready for that? We don't know. So I do kind of understand what Ryan was saying here. Do I feel like he's full of crap? Absolutely. Absolutely. He's full of crap. I think Ryan intended on kind of moving forward from Lexi. I don't think, based on some of the things we find out later, I don't think he was as attracted to her as she thought he was, and that he basically was waiting to find any excuse to kind of move forward with anybody at that point, which is sad to say. But I do think that that's where he was at that point. He thought, I'll stay with her because she's probably has the best personality. She's the best looking to me based on, all the other girls. But if somebody else came in that was more my type, more, had more beauty that he aligned with or was better for him, I feel like he would have went for them. So unfortunately, she's devastated by it. Tina sticks with Mitch. Mitch runs and then, walks in and then starts running to Tina. Picks her up. Sophie says, do I, need to leave the room? Mitch confirms at this point he's never had a girlfriend, and this is like the first time he's on the path to really, really having that happen. And then we see Courtney recouples with Noah, and Nick does come in alone. So he didn't choose Bree or Aubrey. And he basically decided if Courtney didn't choose him, he was going to go home. And so he does get dumped from the island with the rest of the remaining Casa boys. And by the way, somehow Bree's IG page was hacked. So I don't know if it had anything to do with this situation, but sometimes supporters get upset and then they go messing with people's IG pages. So, but he didn't even end up picking her. So it's actually crazy. Courtney's devastated, and she can't believe that he did that. I couldn't believe that he did that either. I really thought that he was going to recouple with someone and then have a conversation with Courtney, and we would see like, you know, another like maybe Faye and Teddy situation where they, you know, just immediately went back to each other, or he would be able to explain it to her, because he does seem to do a good job, we see in the next episode, of explaining his thought process of the entire thing. And then we see they do note that there's a fan a vote for favorite islander that night. So Australia got to vote. Episode 18 starts right before Courtney picks Noah. They kind of cut out a lot of the commentary, and then goes back to where Courtney walks off. Tina says it was like watching a train wreck for Nick to walk in alone. Courtney is upset that no one thought, and when she means no one, she means her and the other girls, thought he would do that. She says she went with her gut and she was wrong. She feels horrible. Basically, for Courtney, she thought that Nick was a shit guy and that he was just there to play the game and that he led her on. And so that he was going to pick somebody else just to stay in the game because he never really cared for her in the first place. And what she realized is he cared less about the game than about her. Nick comes in while she's hugging, I think it was Tina or Zoe. I think it was Tina, because they were both wearing red dresses. And she's like, oh, the girls didn't think it was going to happen. Nick says he just kept comparing everyone to his and Courtney's first speed date. And remember, Nick hadn't been in the villa that long when him and Courtney coupled up and they went into Casa Amor. He explained during the actual bonfire where they were recoupling that, you know, for him, he came here to find love, and he wasn't just going to pick anybody just to stay in the villa. He wanted Courtney, and that he didn't do anything outside of challenges and outside and in bed with girls. Girls slept in the bed with him, but he did put a pillow in between them. He didn't really kiss the girls like Ryan did outside the challenges. And he said he had the Casa Amor experience. He did what he was supposed to do in exploring the people that were there. And for him, he just realized that the person that he wanted to be with was Courtney. So he does tell her during this conversation in the bathroom, because she's asking why is he standing far away from her. She's like, he's giving her space because he's like, they're not in a couple anymore. He's going home. And she's still very devastated. He says he wants her to win and get married. He just is like, but it's over for them now. And that she's only upset because he, made a choice that she didn't think he was going to make or understand. He does pack his bag and leave, and he says he will wait for Courtney on the outside if she is signal. Jess and Aaron sit together. They feel like Casa Amor made their relationship stronger. Mitch brags how no girl slept in his and Aaron's bed, which was annoying to me. I don't know. Just mention Aaron with some of the stuff about like, oh, being holier than thou, we're better than these people who did their job of exploring other people and they were in the villa less time than us. Just annoyed me to no end. Like it's kind of, and Courtney too. It's kind of like focus on your own relationship. Courtney was so focused on everybody else's relationship and what everybody else is doing. She wasn't paying attention to what she needed to do with the people that she is coupled up with or was coupled up with. And I feel like these three people basically keep taking their eyes off the ball in order to focus in on what other people are doing. And it just frankly annoys me, because then it's like, oh, I was blindsided by this decision, or this came out of nowhere. But it's really like, you guys are not paying attention to what's going on with you. You're more worried about what's happening with everybody else. And yes, it does suck to know that your friends might end up leaving the island. Yes, you want everybody to stay on the island, but that's not the primary reason why you're there. It is not Friendship Island. It is Love Island. You're supposed to be building deeper, stronger connections. You need to focus in on that. So that was just something that annoyed me. Tina said that she was worried if he was gonna do it again. And he's like, do it again. He keeps like, conveniently forgetting that he basically led her and another girl on, and basically got her nearly dumped, but whatever. Ryan does pull Lexi and talks to her. He blames the maturity and the age difference, and it feels like he found someone where the connection would be better. And she says she feels led on. And he says she's more playful and young, and that they aren't there for a fling. And she says she didn't believe they were in a fling. And she said it made her sick to watch him do all those things like the same day or the next day, making out with other girls. And so she's just upset and frustrated because she feels like he is pushing it off on her, that everything is her fault rather than taking some responsibility for what he's done. So we see Taylor talks to Lexi. Taylor says that she didn't mean to inadvertently hurt her, says it's a shit situation, that she just checking in on her to see if she's okay. And Lexi at this point is pissed because she's like, Taylor's great. She wish she was a bitch so that she could hate her, but she can't, which I think is also funny. Ryan says it sucks, but he really believes he made the right decision. He made the best decision for him and nobody else. And he was being a little bit selfish. And so while I do understand that what Ryan did was absolutely shit, I do agree with him that this is the point of Love Island. It is to find your strongest connection, not the strongest connection that you can be in so that they can stay in the villa so that everybody can be friends, right? So I do agree with that he had to make a selfish decision even if somebody got hurt in the process. Do I agree with the way he went about it? No, he should have been more honest with Lexi, because they were both going on as strong, well, mostly Lexi though, like that was really her fault, but they were going on, we're the strongest couple, this couple is not as strong as us, we're going to be in it for the long haul. And I think if he made more realistic opinions of where they were at, that if somebody comes in, I may leave you for her. If I go to Casa Amor, or we have some sort of mass recoupling where I have to get to know a bunch of girls, I'm going to make those decisions as they come. And so that means that I want us to take things a lot slower, but he didn't. Courtney says she wants to go home, which is weird to me. She's telling this to Lexi. Lexi says that how Ryan pushed the decision back to her and didn't take responsibility for it. Courtney is like, everybody's happy as Jess walks by, and that it's unfair. And I'm just like, wait a second. So Jess, nobody's supposed to be happy because you made a decision that you weren't aware was going to have an impact on your own relationship, because that was what you were supposed to do. This entire situation, like this entire like next maybe 15-20 minute sequence of Courtney and Lexi, I did not understand where Courtney was going. You made a decision. You said you found a better connection, or a connection that you feel like you should have went with in Casa Amor. Is that true or is that not true? Because it's starting to feel like you just chose Noah because you thought that Nick was going to come in with somebody and you were going to get dumped. And instead of saying that, you're going on that nobody gets all the other stronger couples don't get to be happy, and you get to sit in these feelings that you sent Nick home when Nick sent himself home because he trusted that either y'all connection was going to be the stronger one with you, or he was just going to go home. That was a Nick decision, and that was a you decision. That has nothing to do with everybody else. Nobody else should have to be upset and angry because you are upset and angry because you made a decision. But this is how she's playing the game. She's being in the villa. We saw it a few episodes ago where she's like upset because they sent Ari home and that it wasn't fair because they were all friends. And I'm like, but they made a connection that one of the guys have stay because that was a connection that was being built. That is the purpose of the show, not to sit around being friends and not to make people that you kind of like sit in the villa. It makes no sense. Lexi says she doesn't have a genuine connection no more. And I said, you don't? Wait, what happened? What happened? Now, I know she said, let's go back. She feels like her and Ben aren't connected enough. And now we're in the next episode and she's saying, oh, she doesn't have a genuine connection because Ryan doesn't want anything to do with her. And I'm just confused because it's like, well, girl, did you play Ben? Did you sit there and just stay with Ben so that you didn't get dumped from the villa in hopes that you could have a conversation with Ryan and either understand or convince yourself or have him convinced that you were the better person for him? Because all this time you didn't say, oh, me and Ben aren't growing a genuine connection. You said the entire time that you really did like Ben. You were building a genuine connection. You just said you weren't sure if the connection was strong enough. Now it's, you don't have a genuine connection? Are you kidding me? Like, what game are you on? Her and Courtney, I think they're playing a massive game at this point. And then Courtney says to Lexi, yeah, I'm sorry. I know you're not feeling the best either. But hey, at least Ryan is still here. What? How completely selfish and self-centered can one person be? Can somebody explain to me how you can sit there and tell somebody whose person basically dumped her? Well, I'm not no big fan of Lexi in the slightest, but her person dumped her. Is better off because at least the person is sitting here because the person you didn't want, says you, chose to leave the villa because you chose someone else. The entire conversation that they had was absolute madness. Absolute madness. I didn't understand either one of them at that point. So then we see Zoe and Chris talking on the swing. They says how much fun they had together, and they just bring out Zoe says that he brings out the fun side of her and she really likes that. And he says he was stressed that she found someone else, and they kind of make out and he sweeps her off her feet and carries her off. It was kind of very cute. And then we see Taco and Michaela in the other swing as Chris and Zoe are walking off, and they're kind of just talking about what, that they're very happy that they're together and they promise to take care of each other. And then hands intertwined, they kiss tenderly. It's very romantic. I could sit there and write a book about those two because I think they're very, very cute. I I don't feel like we got enough of them for like most of this, and I'm going to point out to you what we did get, how it wasn't adequate. But moving forward, Courtney and Noah talk, and he feels she regrets recoupling with him, and I feel she regrets recoupling with him. So I can imagine how he feels. But she states that she thought Nick, that she's just still processing because she thought Nick was a certain way, and him coming alone proved another thing, and she's just coming to terms with that. Well, Noah hopes that she comes around quickly. He's going to allow her to have her feelings. Courtney says she's exhausted. And then we kind of see like the OG boys are playing, they're jumping in the pool. Lexi says in bed, the next thing we see with Ben, that, oh, I haven't talked to you today. Oh, yeah. Well, I'll have to talk to you in the morning and tell you what's going on. I'm like, are you nuts? And then he's like, oh, okay. Kind of like you're a brick wall. And he's like basically upset, and she's not understanding why he's upset. And he's like, okay, it's fine, we'll talk in the morning. And then she looks over, Ryan and Taylor are kissing in bed. She's watching in disgust. And then she decides to sleep in Limbo Land, which I thought was going to be in a whole nother room, where she didn't have to be in interaction with Ryan and Taylor, which would make sense to me that she would be uncomfortable being in the same room while they're kissing and making out. She tells Ben this, and he's like, fine. And then she says she feels awkward. And what we find out is that the bed is in the same room. And what I'm realizing is she feels awkward being in the bed with Ben because she didn't like the fact that he was upset that she didn't talk to him all night. And again, I'm starting to ask, did editing cut out stuff? Is production playing with us? Did we miss something? Because you did not talk to your person that you we saw that Noah and Courtney talked. But you did not talk to the person you recoupled with, that you said that at some point y'all had a connection. While it wasn't strong enough, you did have a connection. And he's upset about it. But you're then, instead of maybe, trying to understand how he's feeling, I understand you're in your feelings, but kind of being understanding of where he's feeling, you're just paying more attention to the fact that Ryan and Taylor are kissing, and you now feel awkward being in bed with Ben. And you go to sleep in a bed where you're in the same room with all three of them. And I, at this point, was like, Lexi, you have issues, because none of this is making any sense. Now, I understand her being upset. I understand her being upset with Ryan. I understand her being disgusted and having to hear or listen to them make out, kiss. Very, very understandable. I do not understand how she treated him, Ben, in this situation. I think she was being very unfair to Ben. I will at least give Courtney this. She was very understanding with Noah. She did try to keep his feelings in consideration, and she knew that she was being silly. It's not silly. She was being weirdly unfair to him, but she also kept that in mind in how she was dealing with things, meaning she kept trying with Noah. The way that Lexi did Ben, I don't agree with. I don't feel like she chose him because she thought there was any connection. I think she chose him because she wanted to stay in the villa and hoped that either she could get back with Ryan or somebody else knew him. So then we see her still kind of in the same room while all these other things are happening. which I can't seem to think is good for her mental state at this point. But we do see Taku and Michaela in bed kissing. Kind of sweet. Jess and Aaron, Zoe and Chris, Tina and Mitch are all happy to be in bed together, kissing and making out. Courtney and Noah, they're asleep. They're kind of in the same bed separately. Taylor and Ryan making out, and Lexi is in limbo land on the other side. And instead of like continuing to face away from them, she's looking back at them, seething, absolutely angry. And she says that, he's a fucking asshole, which is true. But girl, you moved to another bed. Just, look at the wall like you should. I don't know. Next day, everybody wakes up and Tina and Mitch wake up making out, which I thought was hilarious and also cute. Michaela and Taku are snuggled up. Lexi stays in bed, and then Ryan gets out of bed, and then the room basically starts getting up more. Aaron and Jess are kissing. Ryan goes to the bathroom. Lexi then jumps out of bed. Courtney is still sad in bed, basically. Chris and Zoe have some fun while he's in the shower. In the kitchen, Ben tells Lexi hi. She acts like he's kind of not there. She barely acknowledges him. He asks, does she want any breakfast or coffee? She just like waves him off. She says she's very upset how he acted last night, that he treated her badly, and he was rude to her. And I'm like, he might have been kind of rude to you. I feel like his tone was very rude. I don't feel like what he was saying was rude. I think his tone was definitely rude. But I also feel like he felt slighted, and you're basically not making it seem like he shouldn't have felt slighted. So the girls kind of talk in a circle. Tina and Zoe are both relieved about Chris. Yes, they weren't certain if he would be recoupled. He also says he's very happy that Zoe came back single. Michaela says that her and Taku have some things to continue to work out, and work on, but because he feels he didn't really have a proper chance to make real choices, which she says, it's true, because how can you really know somebody in 12 hours? But she's very happy with where they are. And she said, their cuddling was good. And Taku says their cuddling was good as well to the boys. So, and he also feels like they had a great night. They stayed up for hours and talked, and he thinks that it's great. They're really building their connection. Lexi relays on her viewpoint of what happened with her in bed the night before, says that, he was rude to her, that he says she was a brick wall, and he basically relates to the boys that think the writing is on the wall, and Mitch is like, oh, well, allow her feelings, and it's hard to get over them quickly. He's like, he just feels like he's going to be dumped from the island at this point. Noah says that he's giving Courtney her space. Courtney says she did want to pick Noah because the girls asked her, are you sure that was, the decision? And she's like, yeah, no, I wanted to pick him. I just still processing my feelings. But she says she does have feelings for him. Lexi, on the other hand, basically says that she doesn't want to go anywhere with Ben because he was rude to her. Taylor asks Ryan what's his type. He says what it is. Taylor says, okay. I'm like, I don't, the type he was telling was a little general, but whatever. Then he's saying, how he wants to go to Vietnam, I believe. And Taylor apparently works in travel like I do. And she apparently doesn't know geography, unlike me, which is not helpful. So I thought that was funny. Tina and Mitch explain how happy they are. They both were very scared. Jess and Aaron kind of just stare at each other. I do want to point out that I do find it very funny that all the Love Islands, because now I've watched a few different ones, they use the same exact songs across all Love Islands, because they're playing one of the songs that I remember from Love Island USA season 3. So I was paying more attention to the song than I was and remembering what was happening in Love Island USA season 3 on that episode than this, because I mean, Aaron and Jess were basically like, oh, well, do you want to be exclusive? And he doesn't see his head turning, and she's basically like, yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute, is being exclusive all of a sudden not a big deal? Like, they made it like the least big deal I've ever seen about, I mean, well, okay, Millie and Liam also kind of made it very like blip on the screen. But I was just like, is this just a next step to you guys? Like, is it not important? Because then later on we hear that she didn't even tell the girls. Like, he goes and runs and tells Mitch, and Mitch is excited. He says it's like the first step, and then he's gonna ask her in about a week to be a girlfriend. And then the next thing we see is the truth bike comes back out, which everybody's excited. I do like the truth bike of all the games. As you guys know, I'm not a big fan of some of the games that they do on this show, because I don't feel like the games help them build anything. The truth bike, I think, does. So we see Aaron says he's falling for Jess. Mitch says Tina could be his first girlfriend. Taylor was asked who was her top 2 coming in. She said it was Chris and Mitch, because she really didn't think that Ryan was an option. She's asked whether Ryan is loyal. She accidentally says no, when that he's not loyal, and when she meant yes. And did she see any red flags? And she said, well, that's really hard for her, because it's not really something that she's seen at this point. Lexi's basically the one asking all these questions. Ryan ITMs, he's upset pretty much that that Lexi was going after Taylor, and he feels like she was trying to make a fool of her. Then Lexi gets on the bike. She's mad for giving. They asked if she's mad, and she said, yeah, she's mad. She feels let on. Then she's mad in her ITM because he called her bro, which I thought was hilarious. She thought their connection was genuine. Taylor is not sure about Ryan. Says she didn't lead Ben on, and he kind of scoffs at that. She says she told him she only wanted to pursue things as a friend, and that's definitely not how I remember it. I don't know if anybody else out there remembered that happening, because I remember her saying that she needed to have a conversation with Ryan, but if she chose, it was either she wasn't going to choose him, or she was going to choose him so that they could pursue things. Did I miss a conversation? I just need to know, did I miss a conversation? Did the editors do something that I missed, or is she being like full of shit? Because right now I'm led to believe that she's full of shit, because I don't remember her ever saying that she wanted to pursue things with Ben as friends, ever. And so Ben hops on the bike and he says that he does not feel like she has been genuine with him. He does say that if he was an OG, he would have definitely went for Lexi. Um, he thinks that she only coupled up with him to stay in the villa and is copping out on the relationship. And Ryan asks, well, would you have rather gone home than be here in a friendship couple? And he's like, yes, I would have rather gone home than be here in a friendship couple. And Lexi's mad at him because he believes all of this stuff. Ryan hops on right away because he's like, let's get this over with. And he does say he regrets how things went down. Says that if another bombshell walks in, he would not, recouple, that he is really into Taylor and thinks she's, the person that's better for him, that's best for him. And then he doesn't feel like he intentionally led on Lexi, but he does realize that he led her on in some way. And they ask, does he feel like he can win? And he says, yes, I can win the show. I'm like, so with this question, I thought it was dumb because when Lexi was on the bike, she was also asked if she thought her and Ryan could win the show, and then she was like, yeah, because me and Ryan have a stronger connection than Rachel and Chris. They don't even have as good of a connection. So she's like, oh, he's so big-headed that he says that he can win. But my whole thing is, why would you stay on the show if you didn't think that you could win, or you didn't think that you could find a strong connection? Because that's the point of the show. And why was it okay for you to sit there and act like you guys had the best relationship and the best connection and could win the show, but now when he's saying it because he's with a different girl, it's not as good? Anyway, I understand she's in her feelings, but she's just a hypocrite. And that's probably my biggest thing with her. Courtney tries to explain Lexi's feelings to Ryan. And so I'm going to take a pause here and kind of go back to, this is what I'm going to point out that I have an annoyance with Courtney. She's not focusing on her own relationship. And I think that's telling on with who she's coupled up with. Like, do you even care about Noah? You're worried more about Lexi and Ryan's relationship and trying to explain things to him about how Lexi's feeling than to focus in on your relationship with Noah. And so meanwhile, we see Noah is kind of upset. He's like, why is he here? Mitch kind of pulls him and tries to reassure him. In my opinion, it felt like she was ignoring him that day. And he says, listen, I just feel like I'm waiting around to go home. And Mitch says, don't feel that way. Just then, while they're getting ready for the night, announces that Aaron asked her to be exclusive. And I'm like, was this not important? All of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we're exclusive. What? Or is it that she spent all day with Aaron, so she, didn't get to talk to the girls? Because I was so confused. I was like, was it not important to her at all? Because I just feel like it wasn't important to Jess at this point. I don't know. Hi, Adrian. She is full of it. Which she? Because there's a lot of she's that I agree with are very full of it. Michaela does a cute little toast. They dance. It's like a good vibe in the party. Noah and Courtney chat. He says he feels better now. She doesn't really believe him, but he says he did have a problem earlier in the day, but he feels better. And that he feels like Courtney is paying a little more attention to him. Courtney says she doesn't know what to do. She's still very conflicted about her feelings for Nick, but that she is going to continue to pursue things with Noah. And he's like, well, he just wants the best for her. And she's like, she doesn't want that. She wants him to want the best for him. Which, again, I think is very telling in the way that she, I know she's caring about Noah's feelings, but I feel like she should want that she should be appreciated that he's caring for her, and I think she's kind of just blowing him off at this point. Aaron then says that him and he's Peter Pan and Jess is Tinkerbell, and I'm like, okay, we've lost the plot at this point. But they get a hideaway text, and it's the first hideaway of the season, I believe. So I was like, wow, we really have gotten a hideaway in this whole season, this entire time, that I don't remember missing it. So I'm like, this is kind of late for a hideaway, isn't it? Is it me? But this is the first hideaway of the entire season. And they basically send the text to Jess and Aaron because they became exclusive. So I don't know, does Australia do things different? Do they only give it to a couple who's been exclusive or boyfriend and girlfriend? I'll have to find that out, because I was like, this is like very late for a hideaway. Jess apparently goes to get dressed and she has no lingerie. Courtney gives her some, tells her to keep it because she don't want to deal with it after she uses it. Aaron's excited to have some alone time. But then Tina comes out and realizes he's still in jeans and a t-shirt, and she goes and tells him to change. And he's like, oh, but there's robes up there. And why am I changing for? She's like, she's in like a whole robe and everything. Go change. So we do see he does go change. And I was laughing because they then show us the hideaway when they go in. And to me, this hideaway in this villa looks like a shack. It's very like small, and it just looked like a little cabin in the woods, and not the cutest hideaway. But there's a shower in the front. They left some wine and stuff for them. He puts on the robe, as he was saying. They toast to each other, getting to know each other, having a deeper, getting to a deeper level, getting closer, and making it through Casa Amor. So yay to that. So then we see episode 19 starts off where we left off with 18, where they are in the hideaway. But then we cut away from that to see the other couples, and Mitch and Tina are making out, which is not new. Lexi is full of shit. At this point, I just feel like she's full of shit. She no longer wants to get to know Ben. She insists that Ben should see things only her way, because she basically tells him, well, I didn't know that I wasn't going to pursue things with you. But I was just coming here to be friends with you, and you should understand that. I've been saying that. And I'm like, well, I didn't hear you say it either. So unless the producers are like purposely cutting it out to be, mean to you, I don't remember you saying that either. He feels used. He feels she used him to stay, and she insists she no longer wants to get to know him. They're no longer friends. And she's no longer interested at this point. I'm like, girl, you used him to get to stay in the villa. I agree with him, because none of what you're saying gels with what we saw. So Adrian says Lexi is full of shit. I agree. She's definitely full of shit at this point. She used Ben to stay in the villa. There's nothing that can tell me different at this point. I think she's proven it. it was gone through, we had a connection, and that I can see us building, to we're not connected enough, to I have no genuine connections, to I already told him that we were just coming here to be friends, to I don't even want to get to know you because you were rude to me. I don't know. He rightly kind of points out, I think she just wants to be mad at somebody, and she's decided to be mad at me, and I kind of agree with him that that's really what she was doing. So we see Zoe and Chris dancing. Aaron and Jess are still staring at each other, and I just decided Aaron and Jess have stared at each other like so many episodes, and I'm like, there might have been a reason why, considering what we get later. They weren't having any really deep conversation, because then they end up playing a game and everything goes south anyway. But they did say they're happy with the alone time that they got. And they wake up to orange juice and pastries and fruit on the balcony. He puts a flower in her hair. They talk some more, and then they come back. And I don't know if it's just the quickness with how the show is this season for Love Island Australia, but I just definitely feel like some of these connections aren't being, not that they're not being genuine, but they're not being built to be deeper enough. And whose fault is that? Not sure if it's their fault or if it's the producer's fault. The producers keep putting in all these games that feel like more like team building games or playing games than I feel games that are help you guys build deeper connections, or even deeper physical connections. So we see they come back. Everybody greets them. Jess says that Aaron's more affectionate and that she is too. They feel like they both opened up, and that they both got to a deeper level, that though it wasn't in a physical way, it was more in an emotional way, as they did not have sex, but they did make out a lot. Ben is just waiting at this point for the next bombshell. He's just like, we're done. Ryan is waiting for Taylor to ramp things up more. He feels like she's slowing down. Thinks at this point he's more into her than him. And this was a plot twist for me. Who saw this coming? I thought she was generally really into him, but I don't know if it's the things happening in the villa, or how he's handling things, or she was never really into him. Sometimes, they have to recouple really quickly. Sometimes these things don't show up for a day or two. You realize you just don't like a person. So that's also possible. Because Taylor says that she's starting to see some red flags, even though she didn't see it when she said it in the game the day before. She's starting to see it. The girls rightly point out that, because she says that, how quickly he moved on from Lexi to Taylor. The girls do point out, as somebody said, that he moved also quickly from Ari to Lexi. Though at that point, I do have to point out that Ari is the one that like kind of cut him off, also. But I do agree that he has moved quickly from one to the other. So Taylor's starting to not be in it to win it at this point. They do some silly ass rumba class in women's swimsuit. That was just dumb. Taylor says she's not obsessed with Ryan. And she's telling this to Taco and Michaela, which, can I point out, I do understand kind of why, because we see that a lot of the conversations that are had later on Taco and Michaela are in, they're kind of being therapists, and it's mostly with like Taylor. But it does kind of annoy me that we're not getting to see all their conversations with them together, because they're not being dramatic. And I do understand probably Taylor is closer to Michaela because they were Casa girls, and that because Michaela is spending all her time with Taku, not a bad thing. That then they end up being the therapist, but it's like I don't want to see Taku and Michaela being villain therapists. I want to see their relationship. Like, come on. So she says she's not obsessed with Ryan, and she feels like, it's early days. Like, that should be where they are. And I'm just like, I don't know. I guess it depends on the type of person. If that's what you usually are in the beginning of your relationship, yeah, that's a problem. I don't feel like every relationship that I've begun, I'm like totally obsessed with somebody, but I can definitely see why you would kind of want a little bit more of that. And that might be a red flag for you that maybe there's something wrong. Courtney and Noah talk again, and she feels much better. She basically says, okay, let's reset. Let's go back to, fun and fun, Courtney and Noah, and come back to where we were when we were in Casa, and yet kind of still taking things slow and see what develops. It's the taking things slow that still kind of concerns me, but it is what it is. So they get a text that they're going to find out what they've each been saying about each other, which is truth bombs. Again, I would rather, I mean, this was okay, but this was more for drama than it was for building relationships. I kind of would rather them maybe see what the audience, the public had to say, then do this, because it's just like brought up stuff that people already said and talked about and kind of move forward. It's like Taylor was, they said Taylor had no substance, and she said it was Aaron, but it was Courtney. And I don't like, Courtney says a lot of stuff, and for what? Nothing. Mitch won't stay loyal. He said it was Jess that said it, but it was Lexi. Lexi wasn't good looking. Apparently Ryan said it. She did rightly say it was Ryan that said it, because apparently Ryan said that he said that. Now this pulls up a red flag for Taylor, because she's like, oh, I don't like that he's talking about another person, especially another woman's looks. He says, well, he was just being honest, and he did at least tell her after they got together that that's what he said, but he says her personality made her better. She just feels like he's having a go at her. She is not happy with him. This is Lexi. She doesn't want to be his friend at this point. I never thought that they were going to end up being friends at this point. I'm not sure why she was still holding out hope. This is what I was saying about this whole friendship. Let's all stay in the villa and be together even though we were coupled is BS. Tina gets one where she's super hot and friendly, and she said it was Mitch, and it was Mitch who said it. And that Jess is an indecisive girl. And so I was laughing at that one because I was like, oh, that was Taku. and she said it was Ryan. And I'm like, why would you think it was Ryan? It was clearly Taku when you dumped him. And she was upset that it was said that, because she's like, oh, I just trying to figure out what they want. But girl, you are indecisive and confusing, and you need help. That Ryan was fake. And he says it was Tina, but it was actually Mitch. He's like, oh, but I told you I said that. And then Chris, or Hans, was silent but deadly. He says it was Aaron, but it was actually Jess. So we see it was a montage of a bunch of things that were said. Lexi ends up going after Ryan for everything he says. It kind of ends stupidly. They have like a whole big fight. It was just dumb. Like, the only point of this was to stir up more drama between Lexi and Ryan, and to me it was dumb, especially based off the fact that he already told her he said something like this. It was absolutely just not smart. Anyway, Taylor talks to Ryan. She's not happy with what he said and what he did. She says he needs to think before he speaks. She said she feels bad for Lexi. She knows he's a nice person, but he needs to have a conversation with her, and that he needs to go and figure out, how he can make it better so that she doesn't have to be upset with him at this point. So he promises to do that, and she is like, if he ever says anything about her looks, she basically going to hurt him. And he's, kind of realizes he might have put himself in the doghouse at this point with even Taylor. Lexi's like, he doesn't know how to speak to people, that he's the immature one, that he's talking about her age and everything, and he needs to stop saying stupid shit. Ryan pulls Lexi. He tries to clean it up. He says he's sorry, that he does feel like he's in the hot seat, but he already explained to her that she's beautiful, that, her personality is really what drew him even more to her. But of course, she's gorgeous. She doesn't believe a word that he says. She says she doesn't really care what he has to say. He does say she's a good person. She doesn't care. She walks away. They get dressed for the night. Aaron, funny enough, toasts that they should be kinder and gentler to each other, and have a better night, which is ironic because he ends up not having the worst night of them all. And it was absolutely funny to me. So then we see Ben apparently likes Taylor. He thinks there's something there between them. He says he's going to talk to Ryan and tell him that he thinks he's going to pursue things with Taylor in the future. And he feels like, he's flirting with her. He's throwing stuff in her mouth. Now, I see him flirting with her. I wasn't necessarily seeing her flirting back with him, but maybe she was, because we see later Lexi points out to Aaron that they're flirting, and Taku and Michaela kind of pointed out that they were flirting, so who knows. But Lexi's mad at Ben having a thing for Taylor, and she basically tells Aaron this, and it was actually kind of funny because she's like, is my game that off? I'm like, your game is off because you're focusing on the wrong thing. And they do end up playing a game. Apparently Jess' boob popped out, and she says Aaron gave her a disgusted look and got pissed. She tells Zoe she feels judged. He comes to find her. She tells him to go away. He tells Chris that the vibe is off and odd. She comes out. He pulls her, and he says, what happened? She basically tells him, I feel judged. My boob popped out, and you gave me a disgusted look. And he says he didn't feel like he gave her one. He tries to even come up with the look that he thought he did. Basically, he tries to then make light of it. She gets upset. She feels like he's not listening to her. And really and truly, she was at this point not listening to a word that he says. And then he basically says he thinks this is dumb. And she feels like he's throwing her feelings out the window. And she thinks that he doesn't want to be kinder to her because she feels like he's yelling at her. She thinks that he thinks that she's making it a thing and he doesn't want it to be a thing, but she basically says it's too late. Then we cut to Taku talking to Taylor about getting on with Ben. Taku says they are vibing. She's like, she's not sexually attracted to Ryan all of a sudden. And I'm like, shook. I'm like, what happened? Like, when did this happen that you're not sexually attracted to Ryan? Was it after Casa Amor or before? Or when things started happening with him and Lexi? I don't know, but I thought that was odd. Michaela and Taku reassure her, but tell her she needs to tell Ryan at this point. Taku says she does need to start taking chances. Aaron pulls Jess to the swing at this point, so he's like, we need to squash this. She's frustrated. He feels he hasn't done anything wrong. He feels shut out. Her feelings are hurt. He cuts her off when she's trying to explain this. He feels like his point of view is not being understood. She says she listened to him, but she doesn't believe him. And I'm like, but if you listen to him but don't believe him, that means you really didn't listen to him, because because then you kind of make it even worse when he's trying to insist that that's not what he was saying. And then she's like, oh, you're yelling at me for no reason. And then she's like, okay, fine, and walks off. And she says that he taking this out of proportion, and he feels like she's taking it out of proportion. And I'm just like, how do we go to, you guys were at Casa, you were lovey-dovey, and now you guys are just not even listening to each other or making each other be okay. And again, I think it comes down to they were staring at each other too much and not enough conversations. And that's where we leave off episode 19. Episode 20, we start where we ended, which is he walks away. He goes in the bathroom and cries. Taylor, and remember, this is the second time that Aaron and Jess have been in a couple. They were in a couple in the beginning. She left him for Taku, and then they came back together. I feel like Aaron at this point was like, I stayed with you when you left me. You came back. We did have another argument about something stupid. And now I'm trying to make things better with you, and you still have no faith and trust in me. So then we see Taylor breaks it to Ryan that she's not sure about her feelings, and that basically she wants to take things slow. He tells this to Aaron, feels like they're in the same or similar place. Aaron is really mad. He feels like this small thing, miscommunication, was made into a big thing. He's sad and upset, and it gets in the bed, and he's asking Jess, does she even want to talk? And she says her feelings are hurt. And he says, okay, but she's also shutting him out. And she feels like he doesn't have a right to be upset. And I actually feel like Aaron had every right to be upset. Do I feel like Jess shouldn't have been upset? I feel like she definitely had a right to be upset, but I feel like she needed to allow him the ability. If he didn't feel like he did something wrong, then she needed to allow him the ability to state that and be understanding that that's how he was feeling. I feel like her ego just wanted her to be right. And she kept saying to Zoe and other people, oh, once I see something, then I just become, a cold person. So it's kind of like, well, then you're falling into your bad habit of putting up a wall, which is what he said, that she was closing and shutting herself off to him, putting up a wall when you feel like somebody's done something to you. And as a person, trust me, I'm very stubborn. I've definitely seen myself do this, put up a wall, and especially when I feel slighted. I can understand that, but then what I do and what she should have done is say, listen, let's not talk tonight. Let's talk in the morning. Let's give each other some space and be done with it. Instead, she just was insistent that she was right and he was wrong. So the next day, we see the one and only conversation beyond what we got 3 episodes ago with Mikhail and Taku, and they talk, or Makaku, as the announcer says, talks, the narrator says, they talk their status. And Michaela basically says she feels like they're more than friends, but then less than exclusive. And Taco agrees, and they're both really happy with that. And I think that that's awesome because it's only been less than a week since Casa Amor. The fact that they know that they are not in a friendship couple, that they can keep building their connection is great for them. And the fact that they're both in agreement that that's where their relationship is, where they're not in a Ryan and Taylor situation where he's more into her than she isn't with him, is also a great thing. And so Taku says, hey, let's toast to the day, and hopefully it's more positive. It's hopefully more positive for them. Do we see? No. But it is not positive for some of their other islanders. We see Jess is still upset. Now she's telling the girls that things got blown out of proportion, but that's what Aaron was trying to say last night. He said things were being blown out of proportion, and you don't want to hear that because you feel like your feelings were being discounted. So it's kind of like, Jess, which one is it? Is it things were being blown out of proportion and it wasn't that serious? Or was it that serious and you feel like your point of view wasn't being heard? You need to make a decision of where the situation is. It's confusing for me as a viewer, so I can't even imagine being in a relationship with you and feeling the same way. Mitch and Aaron talk, and he feels played. He feels played a lot. He says he's done everything for this girl. He's like, we went from Casa Amor to this. What is going on? I feel like I've given her everything. I don't know what to do. We're not even speaking at this point. Chris gets a text. There's going to be a pool party. I'm like, a pool party in the middle of the day. Sounds silly, but this is Love Island. So it's a new bombshell coming in. Basically, they're setting the setting. Zoe gets a text, which I found it funny that Chris got the text to do a pool party, and then they basically sent his girl a text to basically she was leaving him to go on a date from Hugh, and that he's taking her on a date. Personally, I thought Hugh looked better on the very first picture of the Tinder profile. I wasn't down with the mullet. I did not like the mustache. Yeah, no. I liked him in the suit and the clean shaven, and yeah, he looked much better that way. But the girls say, they're into it. He could rock a mullet, and so they want to be friends with him. She basically, goes on the date. Chris says it's another test. She looks good. She goes on date. They have a good date. She comes back and she basically tells Chris she's not into him. She still wants to be with. She's not into Hugh. She still wants to be with Chris. And he said, great, because I want you to meet my friends and family. And I think that we can have something after this. So they're in still a good place, even after a date, even after Casa Amor. They're both very happy. Then the next person to get a date text is Courtney. She says she's open to it. She's open to meeting new people. So she gets ready for her date. Then we see Aaron and Jess go talk things out again. And she feels like they should talk and not just ignore things, and that he can't just blow up and leave. And I'm like, that's kind of really not what he did. You guys were going in circles, and you were like not trying to talk, and you said for him to not talk to you, so he kind of just got up and left. He was like, yeah, well, he feels mugged off. They've basically been ignoring each other all day. And they're going back in the circles because he's like, you don't trust me. Where is the trust? Um, just as they're getting nowhere, she feels turned off. He feels like, the same way. He doesn't want to know. He wants to know what she wants to do. She doesn't know. She's like, maybe we should not speak. And I'm like, this is going down horribly. I'm like, I thought you guys got to a deeper level. What conversations were you guys having? Because are you guys not talking about how you act in a fight, how you handle things, you know, if you need space, if you need, like, do you not understand each other's tone? And I understand this is maybe, 3 weeks in, 3 weeks of knowing each other. You guys don't always know how each other reacts to situation, but then give each other space. And, at this point, I feel like they need a mediator to talk to each other. And we later do hear her say the same thing. She feels like she needs a mediator to talk to each other, because at this point neither one of them can hear what each other is saying. Ryan and Aaron are just sitting around at this point looking sad. He doesn't know where to go. Excuse me. She is telling the girl she feels like it's getting worse. And then they cut back to Courtney's date. Courtney says that the date was good. I really didn't pay much attention to her date. She does come back and tell the girls that she likes Hugh, but she can't get too excited because she doesn't want to make Noah sad. Noah, meanwhile, has been working out with the guys to try to buff up. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. All the girls are pointing this out, and she's like, "Oh, are you all Team Noah?" And she's like, "Oh, well, I'm just a referee." Noah goes and talks to her. They get into bed, and Mitch points out that Noah's been trying to get jacked, which I thought was also so funny. But he does pull her, and he does ask her how the date went, and she gives him absolutely nothing, which I think is also telling. I think her actions with Noah is telling. I don't think she ever liked him. I'm really glad. I was upset last recap that she did not choose Shane, because I feel like Shane really liked her. But now I'm very happy that she didn't choose Shane, because I think this would have broke Shane's heart even worse, the way that she's treating Noah. I just don't think she's into him. She's literally giving him nothing. And Noah's like, oh, he just feels like something's there between the two of them. Lexi gets a text, and it's her turn to go on a date with Hugh. Hugh gets 3 dates. The boys are in the shower, so they really have to kind of rush to go in. I did pay attention to Lexi and Hugh's date. They seem to have really good chemistry. Says he's better in person. She asks, why did he ask her to come on a date? And he's like, she's tall and very attractive. He asked, what does she like in a guy? She said, loyalty, because I'm a loyal person. And he asked, well, what's your status? She's like, I'm very unattached, and good to be down with you if you want to recouple with me. So then Hugh and Lexi walk in. Lexi's hoping he picks her. Courtney and him talk. She's also really kind of, entertaining him. Aaron and Jess at this point are still going at it. They're going around in circles. But at this point, there's not too much left that can be done, because Tina gets a text that everybody needs to gather at the fire pit. I'm sure most of them thought that it was going to be a dumping, but it was actually, Hugh had to pick a girl right then and there. And so he only had a few hours to choose the girl that he was going to pick. He rightfully chooses Lexi. I think they had the best chemistry out of him and the other 3 girls. And Ben is immediately dumped from the island. Not shocked. I think what happened was, personally, I think this was producer manipulation. They were like, let's get Hugh in there, go steal Lexi, and dump Ben before he goes and mess up the drama with Taylor and Ryan. They wanted no parts of Ben mixing up what they feel like is drama payoff right about now. And so they're like, let's get Ben out of there and Hugh in. Aaron stands up and makes a speech, basically says he loves all the boys, but it's his time to go. Says he sees a lot of what he doesn't want in his life, and he also learned about his self stuff that he didn't want to do for himself. Jess says, why are you doing this? He says he wants to leave tonight. He's done. He's exhausted. The journey is over for him. And so that is the episode. We do see that next time him and Aaron and Jess are kind of going back and forth. She's like, why are you doing this? And he's basically done. I think if this was with a new person, let's say he hadn't recoupled with Jess, he was recoupling with somebody different, he might have tried, but this is their second go around trying to make this work, and I feel like it was getting worse than before it was getting better. And I do feel like Jess had a lot to do with that. She was being very stubborn, and he hasn't given her any reason. He's not Ryan. He's not Mitch. He's not given her any reason to feel the way she feels, that he hates her, her hatred for her, or, we didn't see the face he made, that he's disgusted with her. At this point, if he's telling her that, he didn't make that face, he doesn't hate her, he's not being disgusted with her, I think she should have took it and moved on, maybe had a conversation with, listen, I didn't like the way you talked to me last night, so we're going to have to figure that part out, but I'm going to believe you in you saying that you didn't feel disgusted by what happened and you weren't making a specific face to me, and keep it moving. So we also see that there'll be 2 new bombshells, and of course Courtney or Tina had something to say about them, and that there is a text for that a couple is going to be dumped. And I'm of course hoping that's not Taku and Michaela. I don't know who it's going to be. If Ryan and Taylor or Courtney and Noah don't get their crap together, I think it could be between them, but who knows. So that is it for my recap today, guys. Thank you for joining me. I will say that I did like the Casa episodes. I did like the first couple of episodes in this week, because I do feel like there's been more content. As we go on and they throw these stupid silly games back in, I have less interest of that stuff. I'm still trying to figure out at this point when the show is ending, because I know it was supposed to only be 4 weeks, so we might only have another week left to go, which means there'll be a dumping next week, and then maybe another dumping, and then I'm not sure if we're going to meet the parents or what. So we're getting closer to the end, I think, and that might be why they're throwing bombshells left and right at this point, every other day. So thank you, guys, and as always, please follow me on Entertainment in Color on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and TikTok. And if you didn't see, I put out a list of holiday movies that have either come out or going to be coming out through the end of the season. A lot of them have already aired, especially on Hallmark, because Hallmark started their holiday movies in October, but they're re-airing some of them in November, and they'll re-air them again in December. And then a lot of the other cable channels and streaming channels will not start their holiday movies until next week and Thanksgiving, and then they'll go through to December. And so follow me. You can bookmark those pages. It's on all of my social media pages, so you can get your holiday movies on. So I'm excited for the holiday season. It's my favorite season, as I've said, and I love holiday movies, and especially romantic ones. So thank you guys for joining me. I love doing this. I will, if you're one of my viewers that watches my Insecure recaps, I will be hopefully doing one tomorrow night at 6:30. If not, it'll have to be Tuesday. I have to look at my schedule. But thank you guys for joining me. Oh, and also I will be recapping 12 Dates of Christmas. That comes out in the week of Thanksgiving. It'll probably end up replacing my Love Island Australia if it ends that week. My Love Island Australia recaps, and I will be recapping the final season of This Is Us, which starts January. I'm gonna see if I should recap. I don't know. You guys tell me if I should recap the final season of Blackish. I have to think about it. But thank you guys for joining me, and have a good night, guys.